Geordie Journos, or Geordie Journo, flying solo today, myself, Dom Skur. Big day of sorts for Newcastle United, where myself, Jordan and members of the North East Press have been speaking to Newcastle United CEO Darren Eales. He's currently in Germany at the Adidas headquarters as Newcastle's pre-season plans get underway. So this is just a quick snap reaction. We've spoke to Darren Eales. We'll be, the three of us, myself, Jordan and Liam, will be really dissecting this tomorrow, proper sort of in-depth analysis of what Darren Eales really said and what that could mean, and we'll discuss it more in depth tomorrow. This is a quick overview of what Darren Eales really said. So this, regular viewers of the channel, this is the Jordan Cronin, Dom Skur post Eddie Howe press conference type video. So that's what I'm doing on my own today in my office with me new Geordie Journos little badge thing. Before we get started, just a quick shout out to our sponsors for Rivers Financial Planning for all your financial pension needs. So be sure to check them out. Details in the description. But yeah, on Darren Eales, we spoke to him today. It's been an eventful few weeks at Newcastle United. We've had the PSR situation, selling of Yankuba Minte, Elliot Anderson, to comply with PSR before June 30th. There's obviously been Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad Ghodoussi leave the football club. There's also been the appointment of the likes of Paul Mitchell, James Bunce, the departure or compensation agreement for Dan Ashworth to join Manchester United as sporting director. And then recently, over the European Championship period, it's been Eddie Howe, England, things like that. Speculation, as it was addressed by Darren Eales. He played it down as speculation, but now Gareth Southgate has left his post as England manager. Eddie Howe is, whether you like it or not, the FA's top choice to replace him, so will understandably be among the favourites. But having said that, Eddie Howe has historically sort of distanced himself from the role as England manager and always enforced his commitment to Newcastle United and the job he does, and the fact he's back training now, doing the day-to-day, working with the players is going to be important to him. Darren Eales, though, stressed that Newcastle were committed to Eddie Howe. He didn't get drawn into too many hypothetical situations. Would the FA come knocking? Is he braced for that? He didn't entertain questions like that, really. But he did say, quite interestingly, that Eddie Howe had agreed a multi-year extension last summer. And that's interesting because our understanding, and it was widely reported at the time, Eddie Howe signed an extension, signed a new deal at Newcastle United in the summer of 2022. The new deal last summer was never in the public domain as such. So that is brand new information from Darren Eales, even though it is technically a year old. So the fact that Eddie Howe has a multi-year deal and would command a compensation fee or a buyout, a release clause, if you like, if England or whoever come calling, that's going to be really important for Newcastle, and that would make Newcastle powerless if England were to come along and pay that compensation fee. But Darren Eales stressed that Newcastle United are committed to Eddie Howe. They want him as a long-term manager, and he absolutely expects Eddie Howe to be in charge for the start of the new season, which is on the 17th of August against Southampton at St James's Park. So yeah, that's what Darren Eales had to say about Eddie Howe's situation. We will be interested to see what Eddie Howe has to say, and Jordan and Liam will be over in Germany, able to ask Eddie Howe that and get to the bottom of that. So more to come on that. But yeah, on the other issues Darren Eales discussed, obviously PSR was on the agenda last time we spoke to Darren Eales back in January, and it was obviously brought up once again, given the fact Newcastle were so close to breaching it, and eventually it was almost like pulling a rabbit out of the hat. Got through, complied with PSR through the sales of Yankuba Minte, Elliot Anderson, and then obviously compensation fee for Dan Ashworth as well. Darren Eales did confirm Newcastle were compliant with PSR, though did admit it was a little bit last minute, and he used this platform actually to have a sort of low-key rant and a low-key target of the PSR rules, and say the fact that it encouraged Newcastle almost to get rid of a promising young player, an academy player like Elliot Anderson, isn't really right, and it really needs a rethink, which is fair enough. Newcastle got away with it with the fact that the likes of Alexander Isak, Bruno Guimaraes and Anthony Gordon were able to stay at the club, and those key assets were protected. But Elliot Anderson, a promising player Eddie Howe liked. He wouldn't have wanted to sell him, but the way PSR works, the fact he can be sold for pure profit, as they put it, was real disappointment for Newcastle United, but something they had to do, something they almost felt they were forced to do in order to comply and avoid a points deduction. And then moving on into the current transfer window, looking ahead to the new season in terms of finances, obviously Liam spoke with Kieran Maguire about, do Newcastle have money to spend? And the general consensus from the football finance expert was, yes, Newcastle will have money to spend. And that message was echoed by Darren Eales. So good to see. You heard it here first on the Geordie Journos last week when Liam spoke to Kieran Maguire. So check that video out. Darren Eales said Newcastle have money to strengthen and said the appointment of Paul Mitchell is going to be important in terms of recruitment. Meetings are now taking place. Conversations are taking place. Newcastle have obviously signed 4 players already this summer. But in terms of strengthening that starting 11, making that marquee signing, if you like, hasn't quite happened yet. So we expect movement, or the suggestion was from Darren Eales that there will be some movement in terms of incomings in the coming weeks potentially, but didn't say whether anything was close, as you'd probably expect, much to our disappointment. And then given the fact the PSR situation is sorted for this season at least, and that speculation surrounding the likes of Bruno with his release clause, Isak, those talks with Chelsea, Anthony Gordon, Liverpool links, that can almost be put to bed. You can't control what other clubs do, whether they make an approach or things like that. It is a fluid situation at the end of the day. But Newcastle's stance, at least, whereas maybe a month ago it was a little bit different, where they were scrambling to compete with PSR regulations. Now they're in a comfortable position where they can basically go, no, we can keep hold of our top players like Alexander Isak, Bruno, Anthony Gordon. So Darren Eales expects those players to remain at the club this coming season. Finally, I asked Darren Eales what the departure of Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad Ghodoussi would mean, how it would impact the club, the running of the club, behind the scenes, things like that. And basically, Darren Eales suggested it wouldn't, because now, after years of building, the appointment of himself, now Paul Mitchell, James Bunce, that C-suite team, as he put it, all those chief operations officer, the financial officer, all those people are now in place. The club runs itself in that way and doesn't really need the ownership group to step down to manage the day-to-day of the club. So he basically said nothing would change. And then asked, was it a mutual decision? Did they choose to walk away? Did the club want them to walk away? And he basically said it was a mutual decision. Amanda Staveley go on with the club's best wishes and will pursue other business interests. So yeah, that was pretty much a brief summary of what Darren Eales had to say to us journalists this afternoon. I'm sure you'll see the reports come out of it, the likes of the speculation surrounding Eddie Howe, the PSR situation, of course, Amanda Staveley, Mehrdad Ghoudoussi's departure, and transfers to come. Again, it wasn't the most eye-opening interview we've ever seen. I'd say the one in January was much more of a bombshell interview, if you like. But big takeaways include the fact that Newcastle obviously want to keep hold of Eddie Howe. A long-term extension was agreed with him last summer, so he is in the club's long-term plans very much. And the club complying with PSR means the likes of Bruno, Isak, Gordon will stay at the club unless someone comes in and puts a too good to turn down offer on the table. Like Darren Eales has said previously, every player has a price regarding PSR, but Newcastle are in a far more comfortable position than they were a month ago, where, by Darren Eales' own admission, things got quite hectic and it all got a bit last minute for everyone's liking. But yeah, we'll have a more in-depth breakdown with Jordan and Liam and myself tomorrow, going through what Darren Eales really said and reading between the lines of what he said. This is just a quick overview coming out, as you'll probably see in the stories as well. So hope you enjoyed this quick video, a little bit different, flying solo, something I haven't done in a long time. So hope you enjoyed it, a quick Geordie Journos update. And if you like what we do, check out our other videos, of course. Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, ring the bell for all your Geordie Journos content, and we'll see you later this week. Cheers.